The physical controls are pretty straightforward. So it's the implementation of the security measures to data. So deterrent control, we'll be discussing on that, or prevent any unauthorized to the sensitive material from a physical security perspective, from a physical perspective. Someone's entering to the office, right? Someone's who has access to the data center, on-prem data center, right? Someone's who is having access to a cabinet with all the workstations, all the retired workstations and servers, right? But still data is present, right? So someone's who's having access to certain areas which is really sensitive. We also need to make sure that we have a good level of controls on that, right? It could be a mix of both physical plus technical controls, right? Your next gen CCTVs of and monitoring, right, which is a live alerting system and those sort of stuff, right? So we could have a lot of controls there, but definitely it depends on the company's budget and company's vision to towards the cybersecurity, right? But definitely anything that's sensitive within your organization from a physical perspective, just make sure that you have identified those, and this identification is required when you do a gap assessment. Whenever we do a gap assessment, and if you don't really know that, what our office premises consists of, it it open doors for multiple vulnerabilities, inherent vulnerabilities, right? And that's a people mistake, that's a process mistake, not a technological mistake, right? So we really need to know that what are the office premise, what are the different areas in our office premises. It could be through your floor plan, right? And I'm sure that almost everyone here would agree that there's something called HSE, right? Health and environment security audits, right? That regularly happens, wherein they say that you should have, fire exhaust being placed to a certain within certain distance within the firm and within the premise, right? So those sort of audits regularly happens. That also works in conjunction with your physical security control. So some of them are really CCTVs, motion detectors, security guards, and I'll talk about this one as well. Picture IDs, right? So some of the IDs that I've seen in the past, it only contains names and designation, and that's all, right? As trivial as it may sound, it's really important to have picture IDs, right? Because that's something that would also get identified at the security guard level whenever they are entering the office premises. Locked doors for sure, and then you could have biometrics, such as your fingerprint, voice, face, or anything of any biometric system to restrict access to some of the most critical and sensitive areas, right? Like your data centers, or it could be material movement as well. It could be material movement as well, and this is also a control in your ISO, that you should have a proper outgoing and incoming material movement clarity. It could be either through your register or any technical tool implementations like SAPs and those sort of stuff, right? And obviously there should be CCTV cameras and whatnot. So it's really important to understand, it all turns down to understanding how your office premises works. What are the critical areas in your office premises? So on the security guard staff, right? Can anyone say probably, or can anyone, probably, based on your experience, or probably you have already looked on this one before, what are the things that needs to be taken care of before onboarding security guards? And this is mostly through your third parties. This is mostly through your third party. It's quite rare in today's era wherein they would go for hiring their own on their internal payroll. They would obviously go for third parties. But yeah, anyway, if someone can let me know what are the few things that needs to be taken care of while onboarding a security guard. Right. So for regular employees, the BGB would be looking quite different as compared to security guards, right? And if they are employed through third parties, so say that this would anyway be true whenever we are going ahead with employing security guards by ourselves, right? So say that if we happen to employ through a third party vendor, right? Like security, there are many companies out there who offers these services, right? what are the things that needs to be taken care of, looked at, and should be formally drafted. So say if you're employing security guard from a third party, right? What are the different things that we really need to take care of? We need to have certain clauses included in the contract if the security guard goes rogue, right? If the security guard goes rogue, say if any of the security guards had malicious intent, right? Because to be honest, they are the first line of entry, at least to the office premise, right? What if somebody bribes the security guard and tries to enter the office premise, right? So we really need to make sure, because we are trying to hire through a third party, right? Obviously, they would have their own reputation and whatnot. We really need to have this clause in place. If security guard goes rogue, what are the things that would be employable or enforced or enacted on the third party? It could be penalty, it could be, it could be certain legal obligations, it could be criminal case on the third party and whatnot, right? So those sort of clauses also needs to be included in the contract, right? Um, so mostly it's on the contractual side, right? And add as many as detailed clauses as we can whenever we are going for the security guards, because this some of these cases have really happened in the past as well, wherein either they have gone rogue, or they are not really recording the incoming and outgoing details appropriately, right? Details appropriately, because not every company can afford to have a visitor management, right? So there are a lot of visitor management tools out there in the market, right? Which is usually really easy to manage, and event management has the clarity around it, right? But then what if you don't? What if you don't really have the appetite to implement another technology to manage visitors, right? In those cases, it's really important to have a good visitor register, and our security guards would have the responsibility, also the accountability. Probably the accountability would largely sit with the admin team, but so the security guards would have the responsibility to record the details of each and every visitors, and this needs to be reviewed on a periodic basis by the management. So when I say management, it's largely not the senior management, it's the mid-senior management, including the head of admin, right? So they would need to review the visitor register on a periodic basis and make sure that all the details are being captured. Obviously, there could always be a risk in managing manual visitor register, wherein either they forgot or either they missed to record any of the visitors. But as robust as a process as we can have for that, it's really important to emphasize on that. Um, One quick question on the data center, right? In your experience, if if any auditor, right, and a maintenance team, the maintenance team could be for HVAC or server racks, or it could be anything, right? So in these cases, would you would you leave them unattended, or would you rather have someone escort them? Why and why not? Right. So auditors are required to go into the data center, and we have done a lot in the past as well in the data centers for auditing physical security controls. For auditing physical security controls, do you have HVAC in place, right? Have you secured your data entry to data center appropriately or not? How do you do that? Do you have a visitor register? Do you maintain logs for that? Do you review logs for entry to the data center? And how do you do that exactly, right? So those sort of walkthroughs would require auditors to go into the data center escorted. So anyone who is entering to the data center should always be escorted. They should always be escorted. This control with the temporary access with the either with the smart card, right? If you have one, or with the biometrics, this can still be an optional. This can still be optional, but this can never be optional. They should always be escorted by someone who is who is authorized, not some random people going in with them in the data center, who is authorized. It could be from someone from the IT team, it could be someone from the admin team, it could be anyone, right? Someone who's authorized to go into the data center. They need to escort these people in, right? And preferably from, obviously, from the IT team, someone from the IT team.